The history of the LGBTQ plus community really started when groups were beginning to be made to advocate gays and lesbians after World War II. But signs of pre-war gay life did flourish in urban centers such as Greenwich Village and Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s. Awareness did not seem to submerge for this community until Senator Joseph McCarthy ordered an investigation to be done on gays holding government jobs. This investigation led the first American-based political demands for fair treatment in mental health, public privacy, and employment. Leading after this investigation, one of the primary organizations to recognize gay men as an oppressed minority was created, known as the Mattachine Society. Other well-known groups include the One Incorporated, founded in 1952, and the Daughters of Bilitis, founded in 1972. The 50s through the 60s were probably the worst times for this community. Those who came out publicly homosexual risked the possibility of jail time, loss of jobs, and if they had children, they could possibly lose custody. On June 28, in 1969, a police raid of the Stonewall Inn, which is a gay club located in NYC, took place. Several days of demonstrations followed in New York and was a major push for the Gay Liberation Front, as well as many other civil rights organizations. By 1968, DSM, aka American Classification of Mental Disorders, classified homosexuality as a mental disorder. People would be tortured in order to be cured from what they believed was a mental disorder. Some types of torture included being showed pictures of naked people of the same sex while being electrocuted, and drugs to induce vomiting. Finally, when the people could no longer bear it, they would show them naked pictures of the opposite sex or force them to go on a date. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association voted to remove homosexuality from the DSM, later to only compromise to replace it with sexual orientation disturbance. This basically stated that homosexuals were just in conflict with their sexual orientation, and it was not until 1987 that homosexuality would fall completely off of the DSM. Moving on to today, the LGBTQ plus community wasn't really mentioned until President Obama came into office. On June 11, 2009, the Obama administration weighed in for the first time on the Defense of the Marriage Act, which failed to recognize marriages performed on same-sex couples. It was not until June 26 of 2015 that same-sex marriage became legal in all 50 states. Even though same-sex marriage was legal, there were still bills being introduced mainly to protect government employees and religious individuals from legal action if they chose to not perform marriages. So far, 17 marriage refusal bills have been introduced, which is, in my opinion, completely absurd because you should be allowed to marry who you love. Not because it's law, but because it's the moral thing to do. You can do what I'm doing now to help the situation, which is just teaching about it. A lot of people don't understand the severity of these problems or don't take the time to understand how these people feel. There is a plus right after Q because there are so many sexualities out there that you can probably identify with. If you witness discrimination, don't pretend that it's not happening. Oftentimes, victims can be harmed emotionally, physically, economically, and socially. If you just speak up and defend them, this wouldn't happen. You can also take action and actually do something about this. Instead of putting a rainbow flag over your Facebook profile picture, go out and donate to one of these organizations that could help this community strive to be the best it can be. Lastly is to accept each other for who we are. We should be able to feel safe in our own communities. We're all human.